Mary Pipino, and welcome to Fit for You, the show that teaches you how to live a healthier and more fit lifestyle. Spring is here, and we're going to start thinking about putting on bathing suits, shorts, and the clothes that really show off our bodies. So we also start to think about, geez, I might have to lose a couple of those extra pounds that I gained over the winter. The first component in thinking about getting fit and losing weight is, how are we going to eat? Are we going to go on a diet? What diet? Well, today we're going to talk about that. I'm going to be joined by my dear friend and one of my favorite dietitians, Diorio. I hope you find some interesting information to get you motivated to get ready for spring. As I told you in my intro, I am so excited about today's show because I'm reuniting with a very dear friend and someone I truly love and respect, one of the best in the industry, our original dietitian from the Fit Nest, Diorio. Val, thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome, Mary. I'm thrilled to be here. So excited to be back together.
Now, before we get started, we have to say hi to the girls. So, for the audience, when I first met Val back in 2005,
yes.
She was pregnant with her second one, and shortly after she had the baby, then we were starting the Fit Nest.
Right.
And then she's been on a little hiatus,
yes.
And you just had your fourth one in December.
Yes.
So we want to say hello to the girls.
Yes.
So tell me, the
Gia,
first was Gia.
Sophia, Julia, and Natalia.
Oh, they are so precious, and I want to make sure we say hello to them before we go on, because when they're watching the show, they're going to be really upset if Mommy doesn't say hi.
Hi, girls.
And I know they're fit and darling.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get started. It's springtime, and everybody is starting to think about bathing suits and shorts and tank tops and clothes that show a lot more of our body. It's a lot harder to hide it now. So, you know, you and I go so far back, and I think what I love so much about you is you really have such a solid foundation about, you know, how to eat and how to lose weight. So let's start talking about the right diet. You know, everybody thinks, should I do an Atkins diet? Should I do a low protein, low carb, low fat? Should I do, there are so many fads out there.
Numerous fads out there. And the best advice that I can give, and I've given, you know, throughout my whole career, is moderation. Because anytime you cut a food group out, you're eliminating vital nutrients. For instance, that's why we have our food guide pyramid. And each food group provides us with essential nutrients. In other words, all of your nutrients are not going to come from starch or protein or fat. So that's why it's important to use a balance and moderation. Cutting out the carbohydrates, you're going to be missing fiber and B vitamins. And again, our carbs are our greatest fuel source for the body. So anytime you do that, once you resume those regular eating habits, that weight is going to come back.
Well, and let's talk about carbs for a minute, because that no-carb diet is so popular.
Right.
And, you know, people talk about gluten-free. And let's explain to the audience what these are and what it does to the body. So first of all, when we talk about carbs, please explain to them the good ones versus the not so good. And starch is one component of the carb family.
Exactly, right. Starch being one component, and it's a large one. There's simple carbohydrates and complex. And those would be, your simple would be anything white and refined, as far as breads, cereals, rice, pasta.
Anything instant.
Anything instant. Even, oatmeal, granola bars. So what you want to look for when we're talking about healthy carbohydrates are complex, whole grain. So when you're reading that food label, even if it's brown, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's whole grain. You want to see 100% whole grain on that label, because you may see enriched whole wheat flour, and that's not what you're looking for. So that's a component of the carbohydrate. Secondly, you have in the carbohydrate group fruits. So fruit,
yes.
Fresh fruit. You want to eat that fruit, eat that food, the fiber, versus a juice where you're drinking your calories. So you're going to get more available nutrients in the fruit versus a juice, as well as the fiber, and you're feeling fuller versus drinking. And then yogurt and milk also are carbohydrates that have naturally occurring sugar, the lactose. So a low-fat milk or a low-fat yogurt would be also considered a carb.
Vegetables, my absolute favorite. Carbs.
Exactly right, yes. Now there are, we call free vegetables and then starchy vegetables. So your starchy vegetables, corn and potatoes, sweet potatoes. Peas, yes. Now free veggies, but they do have a little carb in them, but not a significant amount that we would count. It would be, carrots and celery. Lettuce, cabbage, peppers, cucumbers, radishes. All of those are great veggies, and they do have a small amount of carb, but they are considered free because they only have about 5 grams a serving.
Well, and I think the vegetables are the one category that I always try to tell people, make that your go-to food.
Exactly.
And when we do the food segment a little bit later, people, I think, look at me and are surprised after they have eaten with me.
Right.
I'm not a little eater.
Right.
But I had to learn to eat foods I could eat a lot of.
Exactly.
And
they're nutrient dense.
Right. And I can eat salads and vegetables. I go light on my dressings. I go very light on my dips. But I am a big veggie eater. And I try to tell people, that's your go-to food.
Exactly.
Cut those vegetables up and mix them with your whole grain
pastas.
Crunch,
and you're getting the fullness because of the fiber. And they're only 25 calories a serving. So, it's an excellent nutrient-dense food. A lot of phytochemicals, B vitamins, minerals that you're getting there.
When they talk about a gluten-free diet, explain to us, I know gluten is a byproduct of wheat.
Right.
So stay away from the wheat products?
Right. And you can go with oats or potato, but you really have to, you really got to be looking at every food label to do that. And a lot of the grocery stores and the restaurants now are carrying gluten-free products, and you don't necessarily have to go to a specialty store to do that.
It's interesting to me how if people, want to make it really easy, if you cut out white flour
right.
and you cut out sugar, you basically are cutting out a majority of the bad foods right there.
Right there,
It's
the
real simple.
process, exactly. So, and when you're looking at food labels and foods, sugar's less than 5 grams is what you want to key in on. So anything with 5 grams of sugar or more per serving, right, you want to just cut that out.
Now, when you're looking at crackers or you're looking at, rice products, brown rice products, whole grain pastas, things like that, is it important to look at the fiber component on the nutrition label?
Yes, especially because, over half of American adults are not getting their fiber requirements. So you really want to look at that fiber and look, 3 grams or more is considered a good serving, 5 grams or more is even better. So fiber definitely, and that's found in your, complex carbs, your fresh fruits, and your vegetables. Again, anything under 3 grams, it's not going to be considered a good source of fiber.
And I know there are fiber supplements, but like we always say, food is your best source.
And your body processes it and metabolizes it the best from the fresh fruit.
And I think prunes are something like a great go-to food that people don't think of.
Right. Edamame is another great source of fiber.
And protein.
Yes.
Dairy. A lot of people are, there's 2 schools of thought on that. Should I cut out all dairy?
Yeah. No.
Is dairy and I love skim milk.
Yes.
I love milk,
yes.
and I love
and there
ice
is
cream,
a relationship
and I love
now with dairy, with calcium in the dairy, with help reduce weight loss and fat absorption, reducing that fat. So anything low fat, yogurt, cottage cheese, milk, so 1% or skim. You don't necessarily have to go fat-free in dairy. You could go with a low-fat yogurt, less than 3 grams of fat. You can't, but you got to watch sugar when you're doing yogurt. So, roughly about 15 grams of sugar. Because it naturally contains sugar, that lactose, you can go up to around 15 grams or so per serving. Anything over that, that's all added refined sugars you want to stay away from.
That's what I try to tell people when they're reading the yogurt label, because, like we talk about keeping sugars low, but that's the natural occurring milk sugar lactose that's in milk is that 14 or 15 grams per cup.
And we can process that best, yes.
And it is good for us.
Absolutely.
Good for the digestive system
because
you get the probiotics naturally.
And we really like to try, when I'm counseling too, to get individuals to have 3 servings of dairy a day. Try to get 2 yogurts. Or, if you're not a big yogurt, a milk, and a cheese, low-fat cheese, less than 3 grams of fat per serving, or a light cheese.
I know your visuals and cheese is something that's sometimes hard, for people to manage.
Right.
So, and serving is an ounce.
Right.
And I know dice were your favorite little description. So explain,
Yes.
if you want to kind of eyeball what a serving
Four
of cheese
dice
is.
stacked together would be considered 1 ounce. Or if you think of a string cheese, the length and thickness of string cheese, 1 ounce. Sliced cheese, if you're doing, slicing for a sandwich, with a thin, small ounce. But if you're cubing it up, 4 dice stacked on top of one another.
And I know mozzarella is a part skim cheese.
Right.
You can buy skim milk or ricotta,
Yes.
which is very good to cook
You
with.
can do that. And that, again, those would be considered low-fat dairy, absolutely.
And I think if you use a really good, hard Parmesan or Romano or Reggiano Parmigiano when you're cooking, the higher quality the food, or like a really good olive oil that's from the first press, it's got so much flavor, you don't need as much,
You don't need
correct?
as much, correct. That's right.
So it's the best choice to
To have, yes.
The irony of dieting, everybody wants to go on a diet to be thin. So, and then they cut out different foods and they're not paying attention to their water, but they want to be thin to look great. Well, are they going to be beautiful?
Yes.
Are they going to have beautiful hair? Are they going to have beautiful skin? If we're
Right.
not feeding the body.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. You're not. Hydration is key. Hydration, for females, we need, roughly about 64 ounces, and for males, 72. And that doesn't incorporate activity. So when you exercise, you're losing about half. So you need to add another 4 or 5 glasses on top of those 8 or 9 to replenish. It's so important because it helps with metabolism of vitamins and minerals. It helps keeping our skin, glowing. It helps flushing things out. People think, well, I'm healthy and I'm watching what I'm eating, but you need to be properly hydrated as well. Or you're not going to feel as good. You're going to be thinking not clearly. You're not going to be performing to your peak as if you were properly hydrated those muscles.
And I try to tell people, fiber's great, but you got to have
You
the
got
water
to have
with
the
it,
water because
right?
we can't break it down. We don't digest it, so you need to be able to flush that out.
And I give them the example. Think about when you put cleanser in the sink, a dry powdered cleanser. If you don't put water with it, what do you have?
It's going to just stick there, and it's not going anywhere. Right.
And then if you don't give it enough water, now you just have a thick paste.
Right.
So you got to keep that water to keep it clean.
Exactly.
Perfect. The most common standard of measure now as we're going on these diets is, let's weigh ourselves.
Yes.
Let's get on the scale.
Yes.
And as you know, we are not fans of the scale.
No, we're not fans of the scale, and that's probably one of the hardest concepts going in and talking to individuals. Scale weight is just a number. It's comprised of muscle, fat, and water, those 3 components. So you could weigh 120 pounds and have a body fat of 35%. That's horrible. You could weigh 140 pounds and have a body fat of 18%. That's excellent. So it's how that number is made up. So when we're looking at individuals, we're tracking more body fat. We're really not looking at scale weight. Yes, you want to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week, depending on what you need individually. But we want to be targeting fat mass. We don't want to be targeting muscle. And if you're not eating properly, that body is going to pull and it's going to conserve the fat last and burn lean muscle. So in essence, that number is just there. We want to be reducing fat mass.
Reinforce, because like I said, I think even concepts that people know, we forget to lose sight of because it's that old mindset of that, what does the scale say?
Right.
But I try to tell people, pay attention to how your clothes are fitting you.
Right.
Pay attention to how are you feeling.
Exactly.
Are you not energized?
Right, exactly. And when you mention how your clothes, we like to measure inches. Inches are huge. Inches are better than, just losing that number on the scale because you could be losing water and muscle. So, you want to have the right measurements for your waist, for your hips. So, we measure. And again, how are your clothes fitting? You may not have lost 5 pounds, but, you're down a size. Well, you're losing inches and you're losing fat mass.
Now, when you're working with clients, the measurements you take, I know you take a variety of measurements in addition to, you're monitoring the scale, you're monitoring blood pressure, cholesterol, glucose for the blood.
Right, if they're diabetic,
But give us the measurements. Arms?
Arms, I like waist, hips, thighs, and calves.
Perfect.
Yes.
Because then it gives the person too.
Total body. So you're losing it from everywhere.
One of your little sayings that I think is good to keep in the back of our minds, because people get frustrated. The first place you gain it,
the last place you lose it.
Yes,
Yes.
that's not what anybody wants to hear, but
no.
why is that?
Especially for females, it's just, we kind of tend to gain it more in our abdomen and our buttocks, and it's just our makeup, I think, and it's hard to lose there. It's that last spot.
And here again, I hate to sound a little prejudiced, but I guess I am. Men have it a little bit better than we do. And they can eat more food. They can have more fat in their diet.
And they can lose it faster. For all of the clients over the years, men just seem to drop it a lot quicker.
I think it's definitely the fact that they are two totally different bodies,
right?
Different hormonal, compositions,
right?
So, and I think sometimes it's frustrating for especially a couple when they're trying to diet together and the man's getting results faster, better. The woman gets discouraged.
Don't. Because remember, you're doing this for a lifestyle change. You want to be healthy. You're not necessarily, and that's one of our key messages we want to hone in on, is that it is a lifestyle. It's about being healthy. It's not necessarily, you don't have to look like a supermodel. Or do you have your right measurements? Are you in the right guidelines for your cholesterol, your blood pressure, your blood sugar?
And people, and that's been proven, in studies, that when you work, with a friend or you work with a couple of people, you don't need a lot of people, but you need people that, are caring and supportive and are going to motivate you, and maybe you're doing it together.
You have that support system. That's excellent.
But I think each of you should set your own goals. It's almost like golf.
Right.
You're really setting your own goals to be the best you can be. And they may be a little bit different as long as you're both achieving success. But don't be concerned about, people can lose, people will say, who's going to lose the most weight in a month?
Yes.
Well, you can dehydrate yourself.
Dehydrate yourself, absolutely.
And win.
Right.
And that's not the way you want to do it. Inflammation. Big issue in the fact that I think a lot of aches and pains, and they've even talked about disease coming from inflammation.
Right.
And there are foods that
can help reduce,
and some can reduce. Absolutely. Tell us, if you have, even if you're, if you were an athlete in your younger days, and you have some joint issues, or even if you just played sports or had some injuries and maybe you had a little arthritis set in, or just as we age, inflammation can cause joint pain. What are the foods that will irritate that?
Sugar. Again, our refined white sugar. There is a direct relation to that, increasing inflammation with that high sugar. So if you already have it there and that sugar, you're eating a lot of white refined sugar, that's just going to add to that. So what you want to do is lean towards more of those complex carbohydrates. And white flour. So those
causes it.
Right. And those complex carbs with a lean protein source, tuna, halibut, cod, a lean chicken, a lean beef, turkey, a lean pork. Those sources with a complex carb, and then your healthy fats with their omega-3 or omega-6 fatty acids are going to help reduce inflammation, such as avocados, olive oil, safflower, soybean oil, any of those, or avocado or macadamia nut. Any of those are going to help reduce the inflammation, but eliminating that refined white sugar.
I know even when you eat, even when you do go off and you eat, the sugar and the white flour, I think people, if they really pay attention, will notice they're puffier, because your body's holding more fluid. It's not processing and cleaning itself out properly.
Right, and those stress hormones even can get a little bit elevated there with that increased inflammation. So you have the inflammation, the stress hormones, and then you have that sugar adding to that.
That's a great point, because foods also can cause a greater amount of the not so good hormones to start to affect your mood, your balance,
and you just don't feel
results.
Good. Yes,
exactly.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about why it's so important to eat, within maybe 3 to 5 hours. Why is breakfast important? Times of the day are key. Breakfast, talk about that.
Breakfast, that's going to rev our metabolism. Let's get us going for the day. So, you know, you don't have to eat the minute you get up, but within an hour or two, you want to eat that breakfast. And again, it doesn't have to be huge. You know, a lean protein with a complex carb is a great way to start your breakfast. And then within 3 to 5 hours, you need to be having a meal or snack. And that should go on throughout the entire day. That keeps your metabolism going. That keeps your blood sugar flowing nicely up and down like an S instead of spiking and crashing. So that and when you spike and you crash, that's when you're feeling hungry more frequently, and you know you're not getting satisfied. So breakfast is key, and then eating every 3 to 5 hours. That's going to keep your metabolism going.
And that's because diets, when you cut calories, you slow the metabolism.
Absolutely.
So to rev it back up,
you have to keep it going. You need to eat, but you have to eat the right foods, the nutrient-dense foods. Remember, we go to bed, and then we're going to go, you know, 8, 9, 10 hours without eating. You got to get that metabolism going.
Exactly. And you know, people will say, well, I'm rushed in the morning, I don't have time. So I'm going to ask you about bars versus what I like to do. Keep your, you know, your low sugar yogurts in the refrigerator.
Right.
Keep the fruit cut up.
Keep the
hard-boiled eggs.
Absolutely. They'll last a week in the refrigerator. Make them on Sundays and have them there to grab. Bars are not, you know, you just have to watch. Some bars, a lot of bars, you know, they're loaded with calories. They could be great sources of protein, but then you have to account for those calories too. Some have 250 to 350.
Some protein bars have 4 and 5.
Yeah. So you have, and then the sugars, that's the other hand. So bars aren't a great choice in a pinch. If it's, you know, not all the time, you could grab it, but I really try to steer people away from bars. And
bars are refined food. Anything that's processed
is refined,
that isn't in its natural state or has just been cooked fresh or fresh frozen is refined.
It's refined. That's right.
Exactly.
So just having that food there in the house so you can grab, and like you said, fresh fruit cut up. That's a great, and the hard-boiled eggs and the yogurt, great sources. Making your oatmeal, you know, Monday morning, and then having it there. Grab it, heat it up, and go.
You can cook a big pot because we don't want the instant.
Right.
Put it in the refrigerator and heat a serving or two in the microwave.
Right.
Throw some fresh blueberries, skim it. I'm a big fan of almond milk now. I'm really enjoying my almond milk.
Great source. It's a great monounsaturated fat with the dairy source there. Excellent.
What about nut butters? And, you know, naturally we talk about the naturals, but nut butters are great, right?
Yeah, nut butters are excellent. Again, you have to watch because peanut butter versus a nut butter, you're going to get the same amount of calories and fat grams per serving, but it's the type of fat. So you're going to be getting the mono and the polyunsaturated fat in a nut butter versus just like a regular peanut butter.
I'm going to jump back to dairy real quick because one point I don't think I made. Dairy is a 50% carbohydrate, 50% protein, correct?
Yeah, we do. And a lot of times, especially for women, because it's hard to get that protein in, I like to count it right with the dairy for them. But if they're really struggling, you can count every ounce and count it towards protein. Every 7 grams per serving in your dairy, you can count as an ounce of protein. Yes.
You've been counseling people for so long and have had such great success. Give us some of the tips or things that you think have been your most, or are your most valuable, tips to your clients on why you get great results with them.
Number one, I think accountability. Coming back, I have some clients that come every week, some come every 2 weeks, but accountability, being able to come to me and present their food diary, it kind of goes hand in hand. I'm a big proponent of food diaries, writing it down, being honest. If you ate, 7 carbs or 7 starches that day, I need to know that so then I can go back and correct it and tell you where we're not, meeting what we need to do. But food diaries are huge, and it just shows you what you're doing.
And I'm going to, people don't understand how important it is too, because then that can tell you too what they're eating poorly. Like, for example, they may not even realize they're eating, so many carbs, for example.
Absolutely.
It could be causing other problems, and you can make a very simple little switch.
Yes.
That could make them feel so much better. and make them not want that many carbs.
Right. And they don't even really, they could be eating, watching TV and not realizing it, and they're eating 5 carbs right there. So just having that food diary there, yes. Coming to me, measuring. I like to measure in the beginning, within the first or second visit, and then maybe between 9 and 12 weeks later, so that they're seeing those results. They're not just looking at a scale, they're looking at inches, and I can take the tape measure and show, you've lost X amount of inches to date. That's another key component that I think, for me, is good for my clients.
Now, they can write it down, but there are also a lot of apps now for the smartphones, correct?
Yes, and those are great too. I just started playing around with those, and because we're carrying our phones everywhere, and you just plug it right in. You can plug your weight in, you can scan the label, and it's all right there. So, and then you can just email that, and it's great. It's easy, simple, and
tracks it for you. I know there are bands. We talked about the Nike band at Christmas, but I know iPhones come out with. The Apple Store has one, and like I said, you can find bands that'll track calories,
absolutely.
Exercise, activity.
There's no reason to say, "Oh, I don't have time to keep a food diary." There's so many ways to do it now.
Yep. Big component, I think, when you talk about a healthier lifestyle and eating is stress.
Absolutely.
Management of stress.
Management. You just feel so much better. You don't feel that when you're eating right. You're eating and you're exercising and you're getting your sleep. That stress level is down. You can see the difference. I see it in my clients. Being able to move and exercise more with that weight loss, and just feeling a sense of happiness and feeling good.
I think if our viewers walk away with nothing else today, and this is the irony of dieting for me. You diet because you want to look great, right? So if you're not getting the right foods, like I said, you're not going to have glowing skin. You're not going to have great hair.
No,
so
your nails.
So how thin you are, you're going to look terrible.
Right.
Yes. Number 2, energy. If you're not energized and vibrant and so on, now you're going to be miserable.
Right.
If you're not eating right, now you're going to be more stressed and stressed about because you don't look good. So like the word diet.
Yes, throw it out the window.
Yeah, really. Lifestyle and good food choices.
Yes.
And you can work in, a day or 2 a week. You can kind of plan when you want to splurge a little, right?
Right, absolutely. I tell, and I do it with myself, you can set aside a day a week and have that meal or that,
Oh, I love my cheat day.
Yes,
I love
cheat
it.
day. Yeah.
Yes.
And you can throw that dessert in or whatever your particular food would be. But and same with alcohol. You can have wine or you can have some beer, but you want to just add that in and count.
Now, how do you count that?
I count that as part of my carbohydrate intake.
Okay,
yes.
And then so if a client were to come to you, you like to balance it out in a servings of so many servings within each food group. So
absolutely,
they're not focused on just count calories.
Right. I'd rather just do so. It's just easier. You're not worrying about grams. You're not worrying about calories. I've already calculated that out, so that you just have to worry about servings.
And you agree that everybody has to find, there's no one size fits all.
No. And your health, going back to that, you want to be in healthy range for sugar, cholesterol, blood pressure. If those numbers are out of whack, you're at risk for heart disease and high blood pressure and, hyperlipidemia. I mean, there's all different kinds of factors. So if you're not doing that and you're still thin, but you're not feeling great, you're defeating the purpose.
And I think, and that's there again, you get back to the scale weight. I think people really need to focus on and work with your primary care physician. Know your numbers: blood pressure, cholesterol. You want the HDL, the good one, higher, the LDL, the bad one, lower.
Right.
You want to know your glucose levels.
Right.
And you want to make sure that your BMI isn't just the number you're focusing on.
Right.
Because BMI is now body mass index, the new, something that, they're saying as long as you're within a range of BMI. There again, BMI is like the scale.
Right, it's a number. And again, it's a guide, and physicians do use it, but it doesn't differentiate between females and males. Doesn't account for age, it's just height and weight.
Doesn't account for percentage body fat.
No. So it's just a number, and again, it's a guide to kind of give you, but don't account. Well, I have a BMI of 25, I'm great, or I have a BMI of 20, I'm perfect. Well, you could have a BMI of 20, and your body fat could be 40%.
Right. Being thin doesn't necessarily mean your numbers are in check. So get to know those numbers.
Right.
Val, I adore you, honey. Thank you. Now we've got to go. We're going to go do the food segment, which,
Okay.
as you know, I love.
Yes, your favorite.
Absolutely. The most important thing to being able to maintain or stick to a good eating program, a healthier lifestyle, is creating the right environment.
Right.
So you have to be able to have the foods in the house
There.
that you can go to, that are going
Right.
to keep you, and you can't be afraid to eat.
No, you want to eat. You don't want to be starving. You should not be starving. You should be satisfied.
Yes, and I'm going to tell you, you cannot keep the bad stuff in the house. There's enough bad stuff when you go out.
Yes.
You don't need it in the house.
You don't need it in the house.
And even parents will say, well, but we have a child who's playing football or who's
Right.
very involved, and so I need Oreos and
Right.
potato
No,
chips and...
You can have those nutrient dense calories right there too. You don't need any of that refined processed food.
They're going to perform better
Right,
if
absolutely.
you give them healthier foods.
Right.
And I don't have it here, but even now, lunch meats were kind of like a no-no. But now I know there are several out there that you can ask for the low sodium,
Right.
the all-natural
Right.
turkey breast, the all-natural chicken breast.
Right.
And keep them sliced thin in the refrigerator.
Yep, and they'll keep, and they're there, and they're easy to grab. And
Yes. My pantry, this is this little sample of my kitchen, so my little go-to foods. And Chris Fiebinger, who I'm so fortunate to have that cooks for me, came up with this little concoction that is great. She literally will take whatever we have left, or she'll buy a whole variety of different vegetables. Then we'll cut up beets, hearts of palm. We have kale in this one. We have broccoli. Then we'll take a can. And I like this particular tuna, and it's in olive oil.
Right.
But then we'll mix the tuna and the olive oil and put some vinegar and salt and pepper. Make a big toss of whatever, like I said,
Right.
we have. If some vegetables, were just starting to reach their peak, we cut them up, throw those in, fresh onions.
and it's easy. That's key. It's not hard.
And we keep it in the refrigerator.
Right.
It's always your go-to food.
Right.
It could be a snack. It could be a meal.
Right. And remember color. The more color, think of the rainbow, especially with veggies and fruits, the better you're going to be. The more nutrients and phytochemicals you're going to get.
Exactly. I always have fresh fruit out. It's always an apple a day, usually a pear. You should always have some fruit to grab at.
Yes.
Cut up pineapple, because pineapple is a natural digestive enzyme, correct?
Yes, correct.
And so I love it in the morning
Right.
with my yogurt. If you're hungry and you don't have a lot of time, there are so many great choices of soups that are low fat,
And
low
low
sugar.
sodium.
Yeah, and
Low
low
sugar.
sodium. Salmon. You can get the packaged salmon now and make a nice salmon. Even
Right.
if you use like a yogurt and a low-fat mayo.
Right.
Cut up chopped onion, chopped celery, maybe a chopped hard-boiled egg, a little salt and pepper.
Yes.
Like I said, beets, hearts of palm, love, love, love them. I'll open a can sometimes and
just eat
yeah.
right out of the can.
There'll be a snack.
Yeah.
Fresh vegetables. Turnips are becoming a little favorite of mine. They're kind of like the carrot. Always have hummus. Now you can buy it in the grocery store.
Yes.
Easy. I throw some hot sauce and mix it in mine. Delish. Great snack or great appetizer.
Yeah.
Can be part of a meal. When you think about when you're in a hurry, if the vegetables are already cut up, keep them cut up and clean in the fridge.
They're there. You grab them and go.
Right. You heat a can of soup for dinner. You have your vegetables. You have your hummus. Like you said, you can throw in, a little tuna or something if you'd like. You have a complete meal and you haven't had to do anything.
No.
You haven't had to cook a meal. Now this is a gluten-free pretzel that is multi-grain, a multi-grain cracker, our nut butters. I love our nuts. Always have a dish of nuts out. Edamame, which some people might not know what they are, Val. Do you want to tell them?
Yes, these edamame here, this is an excellent source of protein and fiber, and you can get this also in the frozen section, the organic usually frozen section, and you can get those, they're ready to eat. You just keep them in your freezer, and you can eat them. I have clients that eat them cold and just dress them with a little balsamic.
Yes.
And
they're the soybean.
soybean, yes, I'm sorry. And so you can buy it bagged this way, or you can buy them frozen.
Yep.
Excellent source of protein and fiber.
And they come in a pod. You can get them in the pod or without.
Yes.
But if you get them in the pod,
Then-
some people try to eat the pod.
Yeah,
Don't eat the pod.
Don't eat the pod.
Right.
Not good. You'll
Yeah,
be turned
that's a little
off.
too much fiber.
Yes.
Chris's tricks. Now this, I'm not a sweet person in this vein, but she was a sweet eater. So she came up with this one, and so many people seem to love it. It's the unsweetened applesauce with the caramel rice cakes.
Okay.
So when she wants her sweet go-to food, that's it.
That's it, yeah.
Now my potato chip is the rice cake.
Right.
So, and I like a dense one. You know, like sometimes they're a little bit too airy.
Right.
So I think if you find a dense one, that's a really good
That's
snack
a really
food.
good snack, and it fills you up. You know, you have that satiety feeling.
Yeah.
It's great.
A good friend of mine, he has a hard time. He told me, I want something at night. So now I've got him eating a bowl of cereal at night.
Okay.
He goes, it's working.
Yes.
Because he wants to eat something at 11
Right.
o'clock before he goes to bed.
Right.
So there again, your total. Cheerios are a great snack too,
Cheerios
right?
are
Throw them in a
excellent,
little,
yeah.
you can take them to work with
Right.
you, keep them in the car.
Yeah.
Those can be a little grab and go
Absolutely.
snack.
You can add that with natural peanut butter, and you know, it's just an excellent snack.
If you have questions for us, and for Val, we'll get them to her. info@thefitnest.com. I look so forward because you're going to be working now with me and some
Yes.
people together and getting you back in. And I want to meet the new baby. And I look forward to, like I said, many years of great success
That's right.
for us and for many more. I thank you all for watching. I'm Mary Pipino, and this is Fit for You.